What's up, Cross Point? Mr. Kendall here again from the Bike Dojo with another edition of I'm Gonna Read You a Book. This is one of my favorite books, my favorite series, called Walter the Farting Dog. This is called Walter the Farting Dog, Banned from the Beach. This is for everyone who's ever felt misjudged or misunderstood. Mr. and Mrs. Crabble were having a ton of fun. There was sand and sea and sunshine every day. There was swimming and snorkeling and parasailing and lots of staff to boss around. "You there," said Mrs. Crabble to the pool attendant. "Get that leaf out of that water. And bring some fresh towels," said Mr. Crabble. "Make it snappy." "If only that dog weren't ruining my view," said Mrs. Crabble. That dog was Walter, digging happily in the sand. You never know where an old bone might be hiding. We detected something under the sand and dug more frantically. "Treasure, a bone, and it's a big one." He strained to tug it free and let out an enormous fart. That umbrella that was shading Mr. and Mrs. Crabbe was blown into the sea. They watched aghast as it was carried away by the undertow. At that moment, Mother and Father arrived with Betty and Billy. Mr. Crabble stomped over to Father. "Is that your dog?" "Yes," admitted Father. "That's our Walter." "He shouldn't be allowed on the beach," shouted Mrs. Crabble. "He blew away our umbrella." "That couldn't have been Walter. That was probably the sea breeze." "The sea breeze didn't smell like that," said Mrs. Crabble. That evening, Mother said, "Wouldn't it be wonderful if we had our own little vacation right on the beach?" "We can't afford it," said Father, who just bought himself a new set of golf clubs. "Walter eats us at a house and home." Walter farted guiltily. There was a knock on the door. It was the manager of the resort. "We've been getting complaints about that dog of yours. We can't allow him on the beach." "I didn't see any rude rule against dogs in your brochure," said Father. "It's a new rule and it starts today." The manager stomped off. "Sorry, Walter," said Father. "You're banned from the beach." Walter farted sadly. "Never mind, Walter," said Billy. "Let's go for a walk in the village. Just stay away from the beach," warned Mother. In the quaint little village, lights twinkled in the trees. Everyone was enjoying the garden breeze and the sweet smells of tropical night. Walter was enjoying himself too. Travel broadens a dog's mind, he thought, farting philosophically. The Crabbles were sitting nearby at a sidewalk cafe, complaining about their key lime pie. Mrs. Crabble counted the problems on her fingers. "It's not big enough, it's not green enough, it's not sweet enough, or maybe it's too sweet," said Mr. Crabble, smacking his lips. A pelican flapped his wings at Walter, and Walter farted in alarm. The power of Walter's fart blew the meringue off Mr. Crabble's pie, landed in his face and made an awful mess. The Crabbles glared at Walter. "That dog is ruining our vacation." "Well," thought Walter, "I'll just have to make the best of it." He sniffed around for something to eat and found a sack of strange-looking tropical fruit. The label said "cook thoroughly. Do not eat raw." Since Walter couldn't read, he ate it anyway. Then he went to snooze in the sunshine pouring through the window. Technical difficulties here, my bad. The next day, Billy and Betty were building a sandcastle on the beach. "Look," said Betty, pointing at the sea. "How did that island get there? It wasn't there before." "Must have been underwater," said Billy. "Now that the tide is out, we can get there. Let's go." They waded through the shallow water to explore the mysterious island. "Now this is the sort of place you find buried treasure," said Billy, beginning to dig. Suddenly, something shiny glittered up in the sunlight. "I knew it," yelled Billy, holding up the nickel. "We're rich," yelled Betty. Mr. Crabble sat up under his new beach umbrella. "Those nasty children seem to have found something." The Crabbles waded out to the little island. "Let me help you," said Mr. Crabble, pushing Billy aside. Mr. Crabble found the rusty old key and waved it triumphantly. "I have a feeling this will unlock something very important," he said. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, he dug up a door, and the key fit perfectly. "Maybe we'll find a whole vacation house," said Betty. Though they dug for hours, they didn't find anything else, as they didn't notice that their island was shrinking. The tide was rising fast, and the waves began to lap at their feet. Betty looked up and gasped, "How did the beach get so far away?" "It's the tide," cried Billy. "We're marooned." "Out of my way," said Mr. Crabble as he leaped into the water. Mrs. Crabble dove in after him, followed by Betty and Billy. They swam as hard as they could, but the undertow was too strong. The current swirled them back around and dumped them back on the shrinking little island. "Our only hope is to build a raft," said Mr. Crabble. Walter woke up from his nap with a bad feeling. Betty and Billy must be in trouble. Walter's stomach was rumbling like a volcano from the tropical fruit that had been thoroughly cooked. They ignored it and raced to the screen door. Locked. Stepped back and charged, bursting through the screen, leaving a Walter-shaped hole in the door. Walter ran to the beach and saw 4 figures in the distance with water rising around them. Mr. and Mrs. Crabble were launching their raft. Billy was trying to help Betty, and all Walter could see was Betty was her little head above the surface, her arms waving frantically. Walter plunged in the surf. Shooting pains twisted around and flung him back on the beach. Was it a cramp from swimming too soon after eating? No, it was a tropical fruit that should have been thoroughly cooked. "Walter, save us!" cried Billy. Walter struggled to rise, but the gas produced by the tropical fruit that should have been thoroughly cooked chose the moment to erupt with terrible force. The tropical fruit fart produced a boom that was heard along the coast for miles. Coconuts blew off of trees, and the Crabbles, clutching their new umbrella, were blown all the way to the Sandwich Islands. The waves parted the little island where Betty and Billy were stranded. Layer upon layer of sand and shells were pushed aside, leaving a pathway across the ocean floor. Betty and Billy ran toward the shore. Halfway there, Billy tripped on something jutting from the ocean floor. Walter raced out to help him. "It's a treasure chest," cried Billy. "Bones," thought Walter, and he grabbed a handle in his teeth. He dragged the chest to the beach. Betty and Billy pried it open. Walter was disappointed to see it was only containing jewels and gold. "Lots of gold." With the money from that treasure, Mother and Father bought a vacation home of their dreams. There was sunshine every day. There was golf and snorkeling and parasailing on the gentle sea breezes. Experts said it was the most important treasure uncovered in the century, but Betty and Billy disagreed. "Walter," they said, "you're the greatest treasure of them all." Aww. And here's the beach house with Walter in it. Toot. Anyway, have a wonderful, wonderful day. See you soon. Bye-bye.